Welcome back. We're now June 14th and everything is looking pretty good out here. I'm out in some irrigated barley. Things are developing pretty well here. Weed control is looking pretty good, although there is a little bit of new canola coming up in the canopy here and there. But for the most part, what was here has been basically controlled and suppressed. But we do have the odd new little cotyledon here and there. Still not seeing a whole lot of disease in barley at the moment. I mean, there's a little bit of net blotch kind of here and there, but for the most part, everything's looking really good in here. So I'm not too worried about a fungicide yet, but we'll take another look at it when the flag leaf is coming out. Well, here's some winter wheat that's looking pretty good. This has been irrigated pretty well, and for the most part, it's in boot stage, although there is the odd head starting to pop up here and there, but we do have some pretty good powdery mildew forming in that lower canopy, as well as a little bit of Septorian tan spot, but this is the major concern right now. It's about halfway up the canopy, so we're going to have to come in here with a fungicide. Well, here's another good visual display of the difference between dryland and irrigated this year. You can see the wheat on this side here is dryland. This is, of course, winter wheat, and it's pushing heads out because it is so stressed. It's not quite ankle wheat, but it's not even quite halfway to knee wheat, whereas the irrigated portion is substantially, up onto my thigh for height so far. Well, according to my truck thermometer, it is now plus 38 degrees out here on a Monday afternoon, and the canola is starting to certainly wilt a bit. We do definitely have a loss of turgor pressure in here. These leaves are just folding right over, going limp. So not nice to see, but there's not much I can do about it either. Well, it is a windy Tuesday now, but there is a chance for some thunderstorms later on this evening. Still supposed to be 30 degrees today, but I'm starting to see a lot of fields like this now. This is wheat that's in stem extension, and it's kind of 2 weeks past the prime herbicide timing on this field here. Just due to weather, between rain showers and wind and heat, basically it hasn't been sprayed. Now some of this kochia is coming up on 12 inches tall in here, and basically at this stage, even the best herbicides in the market are pretty much not going to give you 100% control on this stuff. We're just basically aiming for suppression. Luckily, this is a irrigated field, so the wheat should outgrow the kochia once the kochia gets knocked back by some herbicide. But if this was a dryland situation, we all know which plant's going to outperform the other. Well, compared to the dryland crops, this irrigated barley is looking phenomenal now. We did use a growth regulator in here. We used Modus to kind of shorten things up a little bit and keep her standing. Everything's looking pretty good. Do have a little bit of scald down there on those bottom leaves. I'll have to keep an eye on. But at this point, I think it's safe to say the dryland yield is going to be substantially reduced compared to last year, unless we start getting a whole lot more rain, but I think it's too late already. Well, here's a pea plant that is at 11 nodes, and you can see at the top we basically have 2 nodes left unopened, and then we got flower buds in there. So this one's going to flower at about 13th node stage, and I think we're going to see probably a lot of that. A lot of the peas are probably going to flower in that 12 to 13 node stage, a little bit on the early side, just because of the drought conditions. A lot of them are quite stressed, so they're going to start flowering earlier than they would if conditions were otherwise. Well, the safflower is sure doing well compared to last week. It is like basically tripled in size in the last week. I have seen a little bit of leaf cupping and stress from heat, but other than that, doing pretty good. These leaves are really starting to form their nice toothy shape, and some of those spines are just starting to develop on those bottom leaves. Well, here's some of my favorite weed down close to the Old Man River bottom. This is knapweed. I believe this particular one is diffuse knapweed. Not very fun to see. This is a prohibited noxious weed, so if you have this, you're basically like legally required to control it. If the county finds it, you could be billed for the cost of control, and I'm pretty sure they're going to charge you more than it would cost you to do it. So keep an eye out for these guys. Well, it's Wednesday now down here by McGrath, and it's pretty dry down here. Last week they only got about 2 millimeters, just barely enough to wet the dust down, and you can see this winter wheat is really starting to suffer. These drier, sandier areas of the field are basically just burning right up. Well, here's something I'm seeing quite a lot of this week. Started seeing it last week as well, but a lot of these feedlot fields, dryland barley in the corners are looking like this, and part of it is, really heavy weed pressure, and as those weeds die, they're turning colors, but also the barley itself not doing very good. And when you dig it up here, you can see why. There's absolutely zero moisture in the soil profile, And these fields have been heavily manured, like this one was manured in the fall. That manure is great at holding water. It's not quite so great at giving it up. It likes to hold on to it. It needs water in order for it to break down. And this barley, even though the root system looks pretty healthy, it just wasn't able to get its roots down deep enough to get into that next moisture layer. And yeah, and then, you know, moisture stress combined with stress from herbicide and a bit of surfactant burn, and the weather is basically just doing it right in. Well, here's a fun one today. Farmer A over here sprayed the headlands of this Durham 10 days ago with CS 100 2525 perimeter 24D, and a little bit of a southwest breeze kind of blew a little bit of it over the road here, and you can see these peas are a little bit yellow down this edge, and basically they got a little bit of a drift, and it's group 4 damage, a little bit of curling and cupping on these peas. You can see growth points a little bit yellow, but overall, considering this is 10-day-old damage, and this is right here on the edge, really not too bad. Obviously not going to kill the peas. They're still developing just fine. But anyways, Farmer B over here is pretty pissed off and is coming after Farmer A. But Farmer B, last fall, when he was cleaning up this field for the peas that are in it now, he drifted glyphosate across the road into Farmer A's winter wheat. And Farmer A never made any complaint. And that's what a good neighbor does, because a good neighbor realizes that sooner or later you're going to drift him and he's going to drift you, and it all evens out in the end. Well, here's where we sprayed the Proliant from New Farm, their gibberellic acid, about 10 days ago. This is just dryland barley with a lot of volunteer wheat that's going for silage, and we're just trying to promote as much growth as we can. And you can actually see a line here in the field. As stressed as this is from drought, there is a line in the field, and particularly in the wheat you can see a bit of a height difference. So hopefully we get some rain on the weekend and we'll see even more difference. Well, the corn here by Lethbridge is doing pretty good this week. We're basically coming up into V2 stage for the most part, and this hot weather and wind isn't having too much of an effect on this, other than a little bit of mechanical damage on the leaves kind of here and there. But we do need to get these weeds taken care of. Cody's been slacking a bit. For some reason he doesn't want to spray when the winds are 50k, so we still got to get that done. Well, here in this barley field by Lethbridge, there was some fairly large kochia that got sprayed with Enforcer M, and you can see a lot of it is completely torched. But these bigger ones that were, you know, 6 inches or so, they are, you know, kind of crispy leaves on them, but they are regrowing. There is fresh growth on them, so these are suppressed, but they are going to get going again. But by the time they do, the crop is going to be so big they won't be a threat anymore. Well, we're up here by Carmen Gay, and the canola is looking pretty stressed. She's struggling to cabbage and fill in the rows here, and it is basically trying to rush to bolt. We got flower buds starting to form down here now, so this is going to start to bolt and get going real fast, and it needs rain bad. Well, this dryland barley by Nobleford was looking pretty good last week after that bit of rain, but it is now looking pretty heavily stressed, so we're a little off color, and lower leaves and tillers are aborting. Not much we can do about it. I hope we get rain this weekend. Well, one of the benefits of walking around with your head to the ground is you always end up finding some surprising stuff on the ground. And today I found this beautiful set of pliers here. I believe just a little bit of WD-40, and these will be back in action. Good as new. And also another arrowhead. So once you get your eye trained for these, it's amazing how many you can actually find while walking around. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.